It's an everyday thing. It's an everyday thing. It's an everyday thing when you let your nuts hang.
In the criminal justice system, sexually based offenses are considered especially heinous. In New York City, the dedicated detectives who investigate these vicious felonies are members of an elite squad known as the Special Victims Unit. These are their stories.
Story time: how my husband had me committed for 3 years, started a brand new life, took away my kids, all because he fell in love with our 25-year-old nanny. Got away with this for 3 years. My husband and I were married for 12 years, together for 15 years prior to this happening. I grew up in the foster system and I never really had a lot of family or people on my side. I never even knew or really knew what my backstory was. So when I tell you, when I met my husband, I felt like I had finally found somebody that was my family and that was going to be my protector. And very quickly I latched onto him because all my life I was from house to house, from group home to group home. I really never knew what it was like for someone to say, "Here, I'm going to be here for you." I met my husband when I was only 20 years old. And so it was really easy for me to say, well, I found my family. This is who I'm going to be with. And I want to just make my life with this person. It was a no-brainer for me. My husband came from a very rich family. He came from a really, really, really rich neighborhood. And it was just like I was exposed to things that I had never seen in my entire life. So I'm giving you this context for you to understand why I put all my trust into this person and why I thought this was going to be my person for the rest of my life. I never had to work a day in my life. My husband took care of me. I took care of our kids. We had 3 kids together. And we lived a happy life. That was until I decided to be more involved in my kids' PTAs. And I actually started a small business. I started working with local nonprofits. And I just started to get back out there. And I would notice that my husband was happy for me. But he was also just not happy that I was being more independent. Like the good wife that he wanted wasn't just at the house anymore. And so we did have to hire a nanny. And we hired a 25-year-old nanny. At the time, she was only 23 because it took about 2 years for their affair to start. And because I think for a long time it was just like mindless flirting, when you flirt with someone and it's not going to really lead to anything because you're just flirting, smiling, whatever it may be of your excuse of why you like mindlessly flirt with someone. But it really didn't bother me because we had been married and he had never been a cheater. He had never really given me a reason to doubt him. It was until I started to become very, very, very sick. I started to realize that I was becoming like sickly to the point where I thought I might have some type of illness, some type of cancer. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I was in and out of the doctors. And one day, one of the doctors mentioned to me of a possibility of me being poisoned. And I laughed and I said, there's no way. There's no way I could be being poisoned. There's just no way nobody would be poisoning me. I mean, yes, we had a housekeeper and we had a nanny, but I trusted these people. There was really no reason why. There was no indicators, right? There really wasn't. There was no indicators for me to feel like these people could be potentially trying to harm me. So I went through a lot of tests. My husband at some point realizes that I'm kind of catching on to what essentially I believed was his plan to just me, right? So at some point, because I'm becoming sicker and sicker and sicker, he decides that he's going to get like a medical power of attorney over me. And he does all these paperworks and I'm signing and signing and I'm signing because I'm in and out of I'm not coherent, right? Like I'm in and out. I really don't know what's going on. I'm becoming a shell of a person. And one day I realized that he's taking me somewhere and he's telling me that I need to stay here so I could get better. And he has me committed against my will. And nobody questions him. Because remember, I don't have family. I don't have sisters. I don't have brothers. I have nobody that's going to check on me because my life has been wrapped around this person. So there's literally nobody on my corner. And I'm kind of figuring out within myself that he's doing this against my will. And I'm kind of putting 2 and 2 together. And I'm thinking, but I have no proof that he's actually with this woman. So for those 3 years that I was in there, he would come in there and tell me, he would start to kind of unmask himself and say like, I'm going to start a new life with Kendra. Me and Kendra are going to have a life. You're going to stay in here and you're going to be a good little girl. To the point that the babysitter, Kendra, she would come in too and she would talk to me and say that she was going to take really good care of my kids. Because to be honest with you, I don't think she knew what was going on. I don't think she knew what his plan was. So as the years progressed, I started to not take my medication like I was supposed to. And since he was no longer poisoning my food, or putting stuff to make me sick, I started to get more healthy. As the first year progressed and I realized what was going on and my kids were coming in and out, I would kind of play the part, but I would still act like their mom and I would tell them it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay. I was fighting to get back to my kids, not to unmask this man. I just wanted my kids and I just wanted to take them and leave. So as time passed, I made sure that I wasn't taking the medicine. And for those 3 years, I plotted how I was going to get my kids back and I was going to get out of there. So what ended up happening was I got better and I got better, and my husband stopped coming as much. He would still have the nanny bring our kids, and I would see my kids, and she stopped coming. So it was just my kids were visiting. So as time passed and time passed and time passed and time passed, I finally found someone in the facility that was willing to listen to me and realize what was going on. And she was going to be the one that was going to help me orchestrate my big escape. So the 3 years had went by, and the angel that had decided to help me told me, I'm going to help you get you out of here. So what she did was she came up with a way to help me and basically chronologically put together what happened prior to me getting committed, basically say what was my symptoms, what was I taking, the medications, and we basically fought it from the inside. So we started talking to the medical directors. We started telling everybody my story, and slowly but surely they realized that there was a potential lawsuit because of what had happened to me, and they didn't want the backlash of it. So they basically said, okay, we're gonna let you out, because even though he was my medical power of attorney, he was only able to make decisions if I was incoherent and wasn't able to make answer questions for myself. Basically, like if I was in sound mind, he was able to make decisions for me. So because when he had me committed, I was not of sound mind, he was able to make those decisions, but now I was. So I had every right to take myself out. And even though it had taken me 3 years, because literally I was so scared that nobody was going to believe me, I knew that it was time to run. At the time that I did all of this, the nanny was pregnant. They were planning their wedding, and it was like they didn't know I was going to come. So basically the angel that helped me takes me to her home. She nurses me back to health. I'm there for about a week before I go and take my kids from this man's house. Now let's get into how I get my kids, how he doesn't even really care that I grab the kids, and how this all comes to an end. Even though I was so afraid to go and get my kids, because I was like, what if he like has something that's gonna sedate me and then he throws me back in? But I'm like, no, I already pled my case. Like, I'm just gonna go get my kids. So what I ended up doing was I waited until the night came. I went to go see my kids. They were okay. So basically I essentially packed a bag for each and every one of them, and I took them with me, and I left a note. In the note, I said that I was going to be at this person's, the angel that helps me, house, and that I was going to have the kids with me, and that I didn't want to argue, that I wasn't going to accuse them of nothing, but that I just wanted my kids and I wanted to live in peace. Boy, did I not expect to get the police at my door at 8 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I expected it, but I didn't expect it. And therefore, it just started to be like a custody battle, and it ended up going in front of the judge and family court, and I pled my case. I lawyered up, and basically, he was found guilty of all the things that he did to me, and he is now serving a prison sentence of 12 years for everything that he did to me. Honestly, I feel like he should have got a lot more time, but the judge basically showed him leniency since I didn't actually, and he took such good care of our kids. And to be honest with you, although it was only 12 years, at least everybody knows the truth, that I wasn't crazy and that I wasn't committed because I was crazy or I lost my mind, but it was because my husband wanted to have a life with the 25-year-old nanny. The 25-year-old nanny actually left my husband and started a brand new life as the time passed by and his prison sentence. So he's not going to come out to anything. I was granted full legal and full physical custody of my kids. I did want to mention that I did find my family. I did find out that I was a part of 6 brothers and sisters, and I did meet my biological mom. And although I had to restart my life in a place and start from basically zero, I do want to say that we did get our happy ending. I did remarry, and although I did not have any more children, I do want to say that I was okay. And the moral of this story is that when you start to feel sick all of a sudden, and you have been married for a long time and their stuff are not adding up, Sometimes you really just gotta look over to who you're sharing a bed with and wonder if they're doing that to you.
What it do, everyday people, man? It's your boy PJ. Today we back with another lit video. Back in the confessional, and yes, we staying lit, big dog. Shout out to my everyday people who rock with me every day. Shout out to my player partner, Lucky Wills It Deals. He keeps it lit. Check out his YouTube channel, Lucky Nation Station, man. He keeps it lit over there, man. Hit the link down below. We got Opulence Scents, man, where you get you a 3-week candle. We also got the Hive, mindlabs.com. Okay, where you can use the discount code everydaypj, man. Get those super fat burners, okay? The super fat burner pills, okay? Or if you want to bulk up, like I'm about to do, like I'm almost at my goal weight. You know what I'm saying? Almost at my goal weight to where I can start lifting weights and stuff. You know what I'm saying? I make these slim shirts look better. Like they tight fitting. Now I don't look like I got like a beer belly and stuff like that. I actually look pretty damn good. If y'all want to see, yeah, I'm happy. Remember, exercise and healthy eating, and you'll get to where you want to be with your super fat burners that are hard to lose fat. Now let's get into it. All right, there's a lot missing out of this story because she jumped from the custody battle to him going to prison. And I don't think they can put you in prison for a custody battle, so there's a lot. I would like to look up this woman's name, but I don't believe that this woman's name on her TikTok is the name that we will find where this case will be, right? And I will have to go through a rabbit hole to find out what state she in, and I'm just not that invested, okay, sister? But sounds crazy, right? But we need the full story. You got to give the full story, especially because you went from being happily married to then being sick. And did you lose weight? What when you were sick, like what was it doing to your mind that you were committed? Like you said you was a shell of yourself. Like was you just sitting in there like were you about to be a vegetable? Like clearly you were dying, but how did they take you from that to a mental hospital instead of like a hospice care or something? Like what was going on to where they was like, oh, she needs a mental hospital and not, you know, some type of facility for sick people who are on the verge of dying? Like that's where we need to get to. Then we need to know what was his charges, what was he charged with, and where was the proof of any, you know, so that I believe those is in your medical records, the proof of what he was putting in your system. Because if they were running tests on you, they were like, if they said that you could have been getting poisoned and you felt that way, I don't understand how you go from the doctor saying you could be poisoned to him taking you home and taking you to a mental hospital instead of like them saying like, oh, what happened to this woman? She was getting poisoned and all this stuff, and calling poison control, and then maybe starting to open investigation into what's happening. There was a bunch of questions that I have in this story, and it's crazy. I don't know how I came up with this, but I said, I just know that this story is not enough told in this story, and I wish she would have gave more. But I think out of the privacy of her family and stuff and the people involved, I think she didn't want to open that can of worms. But I'm pretty sure of the millions of people who have seen and watched this video that somebody has done a deep dive and found his name and posted it somewhere or posted a video about it, because this is too crazy to just ignore the signs, you know what I mean? Ignore what happened in this story. And although it's very tragic, and I'm glad she got her kids, but like she said she was in there for 3 years and she was being nursed back to health, and then the nurse who nursed her back to, like she said when she moved in with the nurse, that when she got her health back, like, did you get your health back in the facility or did you get it back with the nurse that you were living with? Like, it's kind of confusing, but I get where she going, and I just want to say, like, you know, shout out to Crystal Grace, man. You can follow her, ask her for more stories. She got a bunch of little stories on her, and I think they all related. And it's about a husband cheating, or a husband that's been doing a lot of crazy stuff to her, like, and the mother-in-law and all them. It's just like, I just don't know. Everyday people, let me know what y'all think about this in the comment section. Like, comment, subscribe, and holler at you.
Day and night. For some women, it can start working in as quick as 1 week.